Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about lesson 4.3, solving inequalities using multiplication or division. Now keep in mind we're still using those inverse operations and the balancing the scale method. So we know in this first one that the opposite of dividing by 3 is to multiply by 3. We use those parentheses on the outside to show that. We know that multiplying and dividing cancel each other out, so we're left with n is less than 1 times 3 is 3. And then we're going to go ahead and plot that on the number line. Remember that less than gets an open circle, and we shade to the left for less than. Here, the opposite of dividing by 10 is to multiply by 10. So 10 times negative 0.5, positive times a negative is a negative, 10 times 0.5 is 5, is less than or equal to m. Now keep in mind, when the variable's on the right-hand side, we flip the inequality over, making sure that that symbol is still facing the same term. So here we have m is greater than or equal to negative 5. So since it's greater than or equal to, we are going to use that closed circle. Since it is greater than, we are shading to the right. On this next one, we have negative 3 is greater than 2/3 p. We know that 2/3 is being multiplied by p, but since we can't divide by a fraction, we multiply by that reciprocal. Positive times a negative is a negative. 3 times 3 is 3 times 3 is 9, and 2 times 1 is 2. So negative 9/2 is greater than p. Now we want to go ahead and flip this over so that the variable is on the left. Negative 9/2, 9 divided by 2 is 4 and 1/2. Again, you could put this in the division house and divide if you need to, making sure that that inequality symbol still faces the same way. Now we're going to go ahead and put this on the number line. So negative 5, negative 4.5, negative 3.5, and negative 3. So open circle since it's less than, and since it is less than, we know that we shade to the left. Let's take a look at a few more. So here we have 4b is greater than or equal to 2. We know that 4 and b are being multiplied, so the opposite is to divide. 2 divided by 4 is 1/2, or 1/2. So b is greater than or equal to 1/2. Greater than or equal to, we know that we need a closed circle. Greater than tells us that we shade to the right. On this next one, we have 12k. 12 is being multiplied by k, and the opposite is to divide. So we have k is less than or equal to negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 24 divided by 12 is 2. So k is less than or equal to negative 2. Again, go ahead and plot this on that number line. We need that closed circle. And since it could be less than or equal to, we're shading to the left. Go ahead and try the third one right now on your own. You should have started by dividing by 2.5 on both sides. When you put 15 in the house and divide by 2.5, 2.5 can go into 15 6 times. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. And again, since the variable's on the right, we need to rewrite the inequality. So q is greater than negative 6. Since q is greater than, we need an open circle, and we will shade to the right. Now, on the next few problems, we're going to see these be a little different. So, one of the biggest rules about solving inequalities is that when you have a negative number and you are multiplying or dividing by a negative, the inequality sign flips. So, again, when you multiply or divide by a negative number, the inequality sign must flip. As we look at the first one, we see that x is being divided by -3. The opposite of dividing by -3 is to multiply. Since we're multiplying by a negative number, the inequality sign will flip directions. So when we multiply and divide by -3, they cancel and we have x. 4 times -3 is -12. So the solution to this inequality is x is less than -12. Now again, we're going to go ahead and put this on the number line to graph our solution. So since it is less than -12, we use an open circle and shade to the left. With the second one, we have 0.5 is less than or equal to -y/2. Now, since there's a negative sign on this, we need the variable to be a positive. So we're going to understand that this is like dividing by -2. The opposite is to multiply by -2. This will cancel. Negative times a positive is a negative. 2 times 0.5 is 1. Now, since we multiplied by a negative, the inequality sign must flip. However, since we have the variable on the right, we need to still go ahead and rewrite the inequality now where the inequality will face the -1. So y is less than or equal to -1. Go ahead and graph this on your number line now. Your number line here should look like this. Closed circle since it could be equal to -1 and shading to the left for less than. Let's take a look at a few more. So here we have -12 is greater than 6/5 m. So we see that 6/5 and m are being multiplied. Since we can't divide by a fraction, we have to multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 6/5 is 5/6. So we're going to multiply by 5/6 on both sides. Here we can cross cancel by dividing both by 6. Positive times a negative is a negative. 5 times 2 is 10, and 1 times 1 is 1. Now, since we multiplied or divided by a positive number, the inequality sign stays the same direction. But since the variable's on the right-hand side, we need to remember to rewrite it. So m is less than -10. Go ahead and plot this on your number line now. At this point, I want you to go ahead and try the next problem on your own and come back when you're ready to discuss it together. At this point, you should have finished the second problem. -2/5 times h, the opposite is to divide. So since we can't divide by a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of -2/5 is -5/2. This side will cancel and we're left with h. Negative times a negative is a positive, and we can cross cancel to make this easier. 4 times 5 is 20, and 1 times 1 is 1, so we have a whole number of 20. Now remember, since we multiplied by a negative number, we must flip the inequality. So h is greater than or equal to 20. So again, you're going to plot this on your number line. Since it could be equal to 20, we're going to use that closed circle. And since it is greater than, we are shading to the right. Go ahead and try these last two on your own. On the first one here, -5 and 0 being multiplied, so the opposite is to divide by -5. Positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 35 divided by 5 is 7. Now keep in mind, when we multiply or divide by a negative number, we must flip the inequality symbol. So z is greater than negative 7. So since it is greater than, we use that open circle and shade to the right. On the second one, negative 2 and a are being multiplied, so we divide by negative 2. Negative divided by a negative is a positive, and we remember from earlier that 9 divided by 2 is 4 and 1/2. Since we multiplied or divided by a negative number, we have to flip the inequality sign. So a is less than 4 and 1/2. So since a is less than 4 and 1/2, we use that open circle and shade to the right. Looks like we have two more on the guided notes for 4.3. So here we see that negative 1.5 is less than 3n. 3 and n are being multiplied, so we must divide by 3 instead. Negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 1.5 divided by 3 is 0.5 or 1/2. 3n divided by 3 is simply n. Since we divided by a positive number, we leave the inequality symbol alone. But with the variable being on the right, we know that we must rewrite it. So n is greater than negative 0.5. So we're going to go ahead and graph that now. With n being greater than negative 0.5, we use an open circle and shade to the right on our number line. On this last one for today, we have negative 4.2 is greater than or equal to negative 0.7w. We divide by negative 0.7 on both sides. Negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 4.2 divided by 7 is 6. This side will cancel and we're left with w. Now keep in mind, when we divided by that negative, the inequality sign flips directions. We need to rewrite so the variable is on the left, and we end up with w is greater than or equal to 6. Since w is greater than or equal to, we need to go ahead and use that closed circle and shade to the right.